And first of all, what do we know about the real meaning of Brexit? What will it be like?
We don't know yet. And when Prime Minister Theresa May says Brexit means Brexit, it's a way for her not to answer your question. So first, it's likely that Brexit will happen. It's not sure, because you can imagine scenarios where the equation of keeping the UK united, keeping the UK prosperous, and exiting from the EU becomes really impossible to solve, and that would precipitate a second referendum. But at this point, it's not the baseline scenario, so the baseline is that the UK will exit the European Union. Second, if the UK exits the European Union, it is likely that it will also exit the single market. And the reason for that is not only the conditions on free movement of labor, which are one of the 4 freedoms that defines the single market, but also simply the fact that the discipline of the single market in terms of common regulations, common enforcement, common institutions might be too much for a UK Brexit government to accept. For example, a theme of the campaign was that the rulings of the European Court of Justice on a number of matters important to the UK were unacceptable. The authority of the European Court of Justice was unacceptable, and it's difficult to square that with staying in the single market. So I believe by far the most likely scenario is one in which the UK would exit both the European Union and the single market. So not a Norwegian agreement, but something more like Switzerland, or perhaps Switzerland minus, because it's unlikely that the UK will be able to negotiate everything that Switzerland has negotiated in the past while being in the Schengen area and all that.
How do you think Brexit will affect Sweden, not only in terms of financial Stockholm strengthening its position as a financial center possibly, but more generally?
Well, that's a difficult question because, again, we don't know what the ripple effects will be for the political structure of the European Union. I mentioned this idea, which I believe might have some substance, that because the UK had been the anchor for the outs in terms of Eurozone in and out inside the EU, that might, over a medium-term perspective, not in the short term, but over a medium-term perspective, the exit of the UK might affect the terms of the Swedish debate on joining the banking union, or even possibly at some point joining the Eurozone.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think that's happening in the very near future. I take more medium-term horizon on this perspective.
Well, those are challenging thoughts, and maybe we can come back to later. I mean, the Swedish political debate has not really caught up to.
It's early days.
Yeah, it's very early days.
We're talking about very structural changes in the fabric of the EU if Brexit is confirmed, or even if Brexit is reversed, actually. So these things tend to develop relatively slowly. So we're only like 2 months after the vote. It's very, very early days.
But these will be important political issues for the domestic debate in Sweden in years to come, how to relate to the common currency and the banking union and all
that. And I think it's reasonable also to see how the banking union develops, how the Eurozone develops. If, for example, the current banking situation in Italy can be addressed in a satisfactory way. I mean, there are many moving pieces. So I think patience will also be needed. But indeed, history is on the move in Europe, for better or worse. And I think it requires agility on the part of policymakers and observers to not think too much with the categories of the past, but adapt our analytical categories also to this new landscape.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pehr.